I'm Leo Murray, and I'm an activist with Plain Stupid. Our core fundamental aim is to help stop catastrophic climate change. So that's very simple, and the rest really is strategy. And essentially what we aim to do is to use direct action to reduce emissions from aviation. And the most important way that we're able to do that is to prevent airport expansion. Everything we do is accountable. And what I mean by that is that the people that take part in the protest expect to be arrested and to expect to be held to account for what they did, because we all passionately believe in what we're doing. We keep seeing these figures being repeated again and again, referenced back and back, but they date back to 1992. And in 1992, okay, aviation was responsible for only 2% of global emissions, right? But that's 2% of global carbon dioxide emissions. Aviation actually has a much more significant warming impact than that caused by its carbon dioxide alone. There are other emissions in aviation exhaust, which nitrous oxide, contrails, which add to the warming effect of aviation. Now, secondly, they love repeating this fact that the IPCC have said that it will be responsible for perhaps 3% of global emissions by 2050. But again, that's a deliberately misleading statement, because what the IPCC actually said was that it would be responsible for between 3 and 15% of emissions. They've just chosen the bottom end of that range, and that's what they constantly repeat in the public in order to put in their mind that this is not a serious part of the problem. If we actually do manage to reduce our emissions from other sectors in the way that the IPCC are telling us we have to, what proportion, but we leave aviation to grow, what proportion of our emissions will aviation be responsible for? And for the EU as a whole, it could be as much as 70% by 2030, right? So that's a completely different picture from the picture which the aviation industry are painting. Plain stupid, we don't have any demands for the aviation industry. The aviation industry is, like all industries, interested in only one thing, and that's growing its business and increasing profits. And that's all we can expect from them. Our demands of the government, extremely simple. They obviously need, well, first of all, to include aviation emissions in the targets set out in the climate bill. That it's a screamingly obvious hole in that policy at the moment as it stands, and it makes a mockery of the whole thing, because the climate bill is not going to do it's not going to achieve its stated aim unless it includes emissions from all sectors in the UK. But secondly, scrap the 2003 Aviation White Paper, which sets out plans for expansion at over 20 airports in the UK, including every airport in Scotland, and a doubling or trebling of passenger numbers. It's not just common sense that tells us that that's not compatible with reducing emissions. It's very, very credible science. If we carry out these aviation expansion plans, we have absolutely no chance whatsoever of meeting our commitments set out in the climate bill. The question on is Plain Stupid an anti-capitalist campaign is a very complicated question. I mean, the short answer is we're a single issue campaign and we're fighting aviation expansion. Implicit in that is a recognition that not all growth is good. And certainly any further growth in high emitting sectors of industry is something which we cannot possibly afford. That applies across the board to anything. Coal-fired power stations is the other best example in the UK, but building new roads, there are all sorts of things which just are totally incompatible with what the science is telling us we need to do. And aviation expansion is the most glaring example of that. Probably the reason that nothing much is happening about this, even in light of all of these revelations that we keep getting from the scientific community, the reason that nothing's happening is because our power institutions in the society we live in have been captured by corporate interests. And corporations are not people, and they have completely different agendas from human beings.